No, it could be fun. No, it wouldn't be fun. I'm kidding.
Welcome to the Holistic Kids Show. My name is Zane.
My name is Imad.
And my name's Kasim.
We're the Holistic Kids, here to educate us kids from the inside out.
Qasim, what is the most nutrient dense food someone can eat?
Berries?
Okay, I'll give you a clue. It's an animal and we have it in us too.
Meat?
A very special kind of meat that a lot of kids don't eat.
Let me help you out, Qasim. Organ meat. Organ meats are highly nutritious and often contains significantly higher concentrations of vitamins and minerals than muscle meats.
Is it meat and organ?
We are talking about liver, heart, kidneys.
But how?
Well, that is the problem. Our next guest solved for us celebrity chef James Berry and his kid. James Berry's culinary career started as a private chef. His inauguration into restaurant-style cooking came later when he was the vegan-vegetarian chef on the Vans Warped Tour. When traveled to 50 North American cities in 60 days upon returning to Los Angeles, James continued to private chef and had the future of cooking for celebrities such as Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes and George Clooney. Once a celebrity chef, he spent years cooking for the stars and now shares the secrets of nutritious ancestral eating with all of us. Mr. James Berry discovered the key to making superfoods taste great. He is the founder of Pluck. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And if you and
This is Sia.
yeah. Hello, Sia.
Hello, Sia.
Hello, Sia.
This is her first time ever being on a podcast. Do you guys remember the first time you guys did this 5 years ago?
Yeah. I was really nervous. I didn't really know what to say.
Is that how you're feeling? It is. It's warm where we are right now. It's like 90 degrees. It's so hot.
You're in LA?
No, we're in Boston area on the East
Oh.
Coast.
Wow.
It's the first week where it actually feels like summer has arrived. It's in the 80s and 90s.
Well, we're here in Chicago, so it's not usually boiling.
Yeah. Well, so what do you want to know about organ meats? I'm excited to talk to you guys.
I think first we should know how you become a celebrity chef to creating a unique spice mix company. We would love to know your story.
Okay, well, so I was about 7 years old when I first learned to cook, and it was basically just scrambling an egg, but I loved it. And from that day forward, I wanted to cook and learn about cooking as much as possible, but I didn't see it as a job. I really thought it was more something to do as a hobby. You were actually younger when I taught you to cook. I think you were like 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've gotten introduced to it even earlier. But now you cook a lot here at home too. Like sometimes we'll leave and say, "Can you make dinner for us?" And she'll do it. So it's really fun that I learned it at such a young age. But then I went to culinary school when I was in my 30s, and I'm getting to now pass that down to her, and she's learning even earlier than I did. But ultimately, in my 30s is when I decided to actually embrace my love of cooking. And then I went to culinary school in New York. And then I got out of New York and I immediately started booking all these private clients. And Tom Cruise was one of them. And since him, I cooked for many other celebrities. But ultimately, my journey has been about how can I help people get healthier. And so after cooking for all those celebrities, I then created a meal delivery service. And I help people in Los Angeles and the greater Los Angeles area in eating healthy food, getting it delivered to their home. And then after that company was sold, I then was a stay-at-home dad for Sia's youngest sister, Sasha. And during that time, that's when I came up with the idea for Pluck, which is my version of bringing health to everyone, bringing people the most nutrient-dense foods, as you already mentioned, organ meats, and making it as easy and delicious as possible.
Well, that really is amazing because a lot of
That
people.
makes
So,
sense.
can you tell us why organ meats? Because organ meats are, well, a really interesting thing to eat. I know
We had it a couple times.
it kind of, whenever we think of organ meat, it disgusts us. So, um, so can you tell us why organ meats?
Yeah, absolutely. So organ meats, really, if you think about it, back in the day, when I say back in the day, I mean, back in the day when we're Paleolithic times, so cave kind of people times. If you lived in in a tribe and you went to slaughter an animal, there's no world you would ever just cut out the meat, like a ribeye, and then leave the rest of the animal. It took so much effort to kill that animal that you would kill the entire animal. I mean, you would kill the animal and then you would retrieve as much of that animal as you could, and you would basically use every aspect. They used the fur for clothing and shoes. They used the bones sometimes as tools. They used every part of it. And what's interesting is that when you look in nature, whether it's like a dog, if a dog kills a rabbit or a lion kills an antelope, the first things animals eat in nature are organ meats. So if there's any doubt about how nutritious and important these foods are for our diets, you just look to nature. Even, and this is kind of interesting. So, killer whales, they will attack sharks. So a lot of people think sharks are the main predator in the ocean, but they're not. Like killer whales are even more of a predator than sharks. And when a killer whale kills a shark, the only thing they eat of that shark is the liver. They leave the rest of the body just to float, down into the bottom of the ocean for all the other fish to eat. They don't eat any flesh of the shark. They just eat the shark's liver. So that tells you a lot right there.
Yeah, that's
It's the most
interesting.
nutritious part.
Yeah, I would never think the organs out of everything. I mean, there's like all of that other meat that like we would eat on a normal basis, like the ribeyes and the other
sirloin.
the sirloin, like all the different parts of, let's say, the cow. That what we'd eat. So it's like we usually leave part of the organs, but for killer whales, I guess they eat the organs. So
Yeah, that's the all they eat is the shark liver. So there's many anthropologists and archaeologists that study basically study human archaeology and try to figure out, well, at what point did we change our diets, or when did we first become, for example, predators, or what were we before predators. And there's this one named Dr. Bill Schindler, and he wrote a book called Eat Like a Human. And he talks about how the human body is what we call Homo sapien, and it's about it's roughly over 250,000 years old. It's pretty old. This body that we're in, where our brains are the size they are, where our digestive systems are the size they are, this has not changed in that long. And Bill Schindler will say that what changed our body to increase our brain size, which then enabled us to talk, which enabled us to have the conversation we're having now, enabled us to think on a deeper level than most other animals, is because we got three things. So before we were a predator, we were a scavenger. And before a scavenger, we were a forager. And when you're a forager, you're going into the forest and you're trying to forage. Basically, you're trying to get as much nutrients as you can from what the forest provides. Well, that took a lot of time, because to get all the nutrients you need to power the human body, you were foraging a large part of your day. Then we became scavengers, where that means we would find other dead animals, and then we would try to get what they were left behind. And a lot of times it was the meat, so we even got meat then, but not much changed in our body. What Bill Schindler will say is that actually what changed is when we became a predator, we got three things that we historically had never gotten. And that's that's organs, blood, and fat. And those three parts of the animal are so nutritious, they're so nutrient dense, that us getting those nutrients started to change the composition of our body. And that's what helped to increase our brain size, because all those nutrients went to our brain. And so suddenly, where our bodies were not getting that many nutrients, we got a plethora of nutrients, and it now shaped our Homo sapien body. But what's happened over time is exactly what you guys were alluding to, is that people stopped buying organs. They stopped eating them, particularly here in America. If you go around the world, organs are still eaten in most cuisine, but here in America, they're not. And that's mostly because Americans started to see them as poor people's food. So after World War II, when there was more money in the household, because now you had men coming home from the war, and now women were working, so you had more income in the home. People wanted to spend more money and buy the more expensive cuts, like the ribeye or the roast. And so organ meats, because those are cheaper, were seen as poor people's food, and thus people stopped eating them as much. And then once you stop eating them, you forget how to cook them. And once you stop cooking them and eating them, you start to get this idea that they're gross. But what's interesting is, and this, I don't know how you guys have ever eaten organs, but if you eat an organ, when you overcook it is when it actually gets like where the taste is stronger and probably tastes gross. But if you've ever tried just raw liver, for example, just a little bit of raw liver, it's actually not that bad. It's not that strong tasting. And then there's other parts of the animal that taste really good, actually. Like some people love sweetbreads, which are the spleen and pancreas are sometimes seen as sweetbreads, mostly the pancreas. And those some people literally find very sweet tasting. And then there's other organs like brain, or really every part of the animal is considered an organ except for the muscle meat and the bones. So that goes for like the brain, that goes for like the snouts and the ears and the tails, they call that, and the feet. So all those items, if you go around the world, they're all being eaten in some way. And actually, a lot of you are probably eating them and don't realize you're eating them. Sometimes they're in hot dogs, for example. Yeah, they use parts of the animal in hot dogs that most people wouldn't realize is not muscle. It's there other parts of the animal.
Well,
They use
maybe
a mixture of all of it.
check that out.
Mystery.
I know, that's what they call it. They call it mystery meat.
So, what was the inspiration behind combining organ meats with a seasoning blend?
Well, it actually was this girl right here. She was the inspiration, and so was her sister. They got sick when they were younger. Sia was about 5 and Sasha was about a year old, and they both got sick. And they had Shiga toxin, which is a form of E. coli, and it basically prevented both of them from keeping any food down or even water. And Sia actually, she was able to start eating again about 3 days later, but her younger sister, it took a lot longer. And it took so long that she started becoming skin and bones. And then eventually she did start eating, but it was just toast she would eat. That's it. And it was very scary time. But when watching her just eat toast made me wish that I could sprinkle something on that toast to make it more nutritious, because toast on its own is not very nutritious.
Yeah.
So, and clearly she had already lost a lot of weight and she was already very nutrient deficient from being sick. And so I was really concerned and wishing I could get some nutrient dense foods in her. And that's where I didn't create the food then, but that's where I got the idea for if there was something I could sprinkle on things that was more nutrient dense, then that would be a win, because then you could let people eat whatever they already like. Like if you like popcorn, no problem. If you like pizza, no problem. You just sprinkle it on whatever it is you already eat. And then we're making everything that you eat more nutritious.
Wow, that is actually really smart. And that's escalated into a brand called Pluck. So why the name Pluck? It's a really interesting name. So what does it represent to you?
Pluck is actually a 15th century term for the liver and heart of an animal. So it's actually an old term that they used to use when you would go to get the butcher and you were getting your meat or part of the animal. They say, oh, you want your pluck with that, meaning do you want the organs? So we found that out. We did some research, found that out, and then once I heard that, I liked the name a lot. So I just said, let's do that. And it was kind of funny because it was during during the COVID when everyone was potting and, and no one was leaving the house, and we were all staying with a group of people. And I remember when I learned that name, I said to all the kids, I said, hey, will you guys all pretend you're in a grocery store right now and asking your parents, where's the Pluck? Where's the Pluck? And so I just wanted to hear them say it. And when they said it, it made me say, oh, that's the name.
Yeah.
But I wanted something fun because clearly, people think that organ meats are going to be gross, or they don't know how to cook them, or they don't know how to source them. And so I wanted it to be something that was not only eye-catching, but also fun.
Yeah, pluck is a very fun word to say.
Pluck.
Yeah.
Pluck, pluck, pluck.
Pluck, pluck. A lot of times once people eat it, I say, oh, you've just been plucked. Yeah. She's like, what do you think of all this organ meat stuff, Sia?
Well, I like the concept of it, and I like the taste of it. I like it a
Yeah.
lot,
What are
yeah.
some of the foods you put on? You used to put it, well, popcorn for sure, right?
Yeah, eggs, steak, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty cool because when I created it, I didn't know it was as versatile as it is, but we put it on everything. I mean, if I put it on salads sometimes, I'll put it on fish, chicken, vegetables, potatoes. It's really good on potatoes.
Oh yeah.
And then, like she said, popcorn. And it's interesting because the flavor is so unique. It's got what we call an umami. So there's 4 taste buds, right? Or four tastes are salty, sweet, bitter, and sour. And there was a 5th one discovered in like the late 80s, early 90s in Japan called umami, which kind of just means savory or meaty. And what's interesting is it's a completely unique flavor. So when you eat anything you put anything that's umami in your food, it brightens the other 4 flavors. So one of the things we get told all the time is like, all I did was add pluck to the food. Well, you guys said it earlier. You're like, oh yeah, it gets added to our food and it adds a nice flavor. Or maybe that was your mom that said it. But we get that compliment all the time as people say, all I did differently was I added pluck. And that night, my family complimented me on my dinner and they all wanted seconds. So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, and actually I didn't really know that she would put organs on top of our like tacos and everything.
Yeah, but that's the kind of point is you guys didn't know, but you ate it and you probably liked it enough.
I did.
Yeah.
The tacos are good.
Yeah. And that's the whole point is pluck is for people that don't like the taste of organs or don't want to eat them, but they want to benefit from them. That's the whole point of why we exist. We don't want health to be a difficult or challenging or a hindrance. We want it to be something that's easy and delicious.
What are organ meats? Why are organ meats considered nature's multivitamin?
Well, they have basically all the vitamins we need. So every biological process in our body, from our cardiovascular health to blood to detoxification to fertility, like making sure people can have kids, like all you beautiful 4 people. That's all you need, nutrients for all that to happen. And all of the vitamins and nutrients that are needed for every biological part of our bodies is in organ meats. In fact, the best way for me to kind of explain it is in science, they'll tell you, well, this is what you need. These are the vitamins and minerals you need to create life. And they call them prenatal vitamins. And so these are the minerals and nutrients that you need when you're trying to have a baby or when you're pregnant. Well, all of those nutrients are already in organ meats. That's why we call it a multivitamin, because it's got so many of the great nutrition, so much of the great nutrition we all need for our bodies to be healthy. But what's interesting about it, and why we call it nature's multivitamin, is because most vitamins, when you buy them off the shelf, well, they have what we call carriers, that they have ingredients in them that are just to help stabilize the vitamin or mineral. And so sometimes you'll only have a little bit of vitamin in that supplement and a lot of the filler. So think of like powder, right? If I was making let's say if I was making a vitamin C capsule, I might only have a tiny bit of the actual vitamin C and the rest of it might be something like cornstarch or corn flour just to fill the capsule so that the vitamin C actually has something to stabilize it and not just get like kind of gooey or something. It helps to keep it in a powdery form. So that's what a filler or a stabilizer will sometimes do. And so that's one thing. But the other thing is that when we make these vitamins in a laboratory, sometimes we can't produce what the actual real food produces. So we isolate things. Well, and what's beautiful about Mother Nature's multivitamin is that all the vitamins and minerals you need that actually complement each other, that help you absorb them, are all there. So you don't have to take multiple pills. You just have to eat the food.
What's your favorite way to use Pluck in a meal?
What's your favorite way?
I'm probably on like meats similar to the organ meats, like for example, steak, chicken, like we had tonight and stuff. Yeah.
I like, my favorite is probably the popcorn. I don't eat popcorn as much as I used to, but I really love the taste of it when it's on something like popcorn, because it adds such a unique flavor. And now things like eggs and popcorn, they just don't taste the same without it. Like, they taste plain to me, because you can't find the flavor that Pluck provides in any other seasoning, because there's no other seasoning like it.
Well, and apparently our mom puts Pluck in smoothies.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to get it.
I didn't
Yes,
really know that.
I put it in her smoothies sometimes too, and she doesn't know.
Smoothies.
There's a lot of stuff going into those smoothies, but
It's true. Sometimes like, basically, so the one you held up is called Pure, and that is just 100% organ meat. And that Pure, 1 teaspoon of that, yep, that's the black label. The 1 teaspoon of that is equal to 2 ounces of organs. So when you add it to someone's smoothie, you only have to add like, half a teaspoon or just a little bit, and it goes a long way. And so I sometimes add it to smoothies. Some people add it to their coffee, but as long as you keep the ratio down, so, because we're only talking like a little pinch or a half a teaspoon, not much, but it goes a very long way, and you won't taste it as long as it's not the most dominant ingredient. So like in a smoothie, probably the protein powder and whatever fruit you're using is the most dominant ingredient.
yeah. So are there like different, like certain people, like kids or athletes or pregnant women, who could particularly benefit from eating organ meats, or is it just the same for everyone?
Everyone can benefit from organ meats. That's the beautiful thing. And what's beautiful is it really is, it's made in nature. So there's nothing weird or franken-foodish about it. There's nothing laboratory made about it. It's freeze-dried and powdered organ meats. And then we're mixing it with salt and organic spices and herbs. Everything is a real food that we use. But people who especially benefit from it are people who are trying to get pregnant or who are pregnant, any kind of sports athlete that's wanting to optimize their health, and really kids, because a lot of kids are getting sick or having issues with their health. And Pluck is a lot of them can't take capsules, they can't swallow things. And then if you open up the capsule, let's say if you buy an organ meat capsule and you open it up and you pour it into someone's food, they probably might not like the taste. Like, we specially designed that Pure that you have so that it actually tastes fine. Like, it kind of has very neutral taste. It doesn't taste very strong, but that's because it's our proprietary blend. When you do it in a capsule, it's doesn't have a very good taste. It's very strong tasting. So it's really, it's going to benefit kids. And something I really like about it too, and you guys are kind of testimony of this, is that your mom is putting in your food for family dinner, right? Well, when you're all at the table and you're all eating healthy food, that is a group experience. And so really what's happening is you're all sitting around the table and you're all getting healthy together. And then it can be part of the conversation. It's something you're all participating in. when we swallow capsules, or I don't know, or we don't put healthy things in our food, then it's not a part of the conversation. Or if you're swallowing a capsule, you do that all on your own. So there's no shared experience. And I think health is really important to bring to the family dinner table. It's very important for us to not only model eating healthy, but also to teach our kids how to eat healthy, because this is going to change. It's going to affect your whole life moving forward. Wouldn't you say? How do you feel about that? Don't you feel like watching how Mama and I eat is helpful towards you, educating you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Even when you eat, because one thing that I think is really important that we've been dealing with. So when she went to kindergarten, we lost control over what she could eat.
Yeah, because that's
Right? Because there was a school she was going to where they would have this, they called it the no thank you table. And so anything kids didn't want, like yogurts or fruit or carrots, anything like that, they would put on the table. And so Sia would, not knowing any better because no one was telling her, would just go to the table and grab stuff. And so she started eating things that we wouldn't necessarily give her at home, because sometimes it was like, I don't know, what's an example, like Pop-Tarts or something?
or like muffins.
Yeah, muffins, gluten, because we were gluten-free at home. And so she was getting stuff that we wouldn't normally serve. And so very early on, my wife and I had to kind of, we learned, like, okay, we can't control, just like your mom, we can't control what our kids are going to eat once they're outside of the home. Nobody can.
Mhm.
And so then the focus became, okay, maybe it's not as important about I don't know, forcing her to eat a specific way out of the home. And maybe it's more important for us to just model how it feels when she does eat at home. And I remember you went to that camp that one year. I think this was 2 years ago. She went to this camp where they ate very differently than how we eat at home. And remember how you ended camp? You were like, I can't wait to eat at home again, because you didn't feel good in your body. Remember that?
No, yeah, I just wanted to go home and eat real food.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're trying to impart. And I'm sure that's what also your mom's trying to impart to you guys, is like, if you can have the contrast. So when you're at home, you eat clean, and you see and experience how your body feels when you eat that clean. So then that way, when you are outside in the world and you're getting influenced in different ways, and you're trying these new Franken foods or packaged foods, they might taste good initially, but then when you feel bad in your body, you always know you can feel better.
Mhm.
That really is amazing. Cause
Amazing.
yeah, and I mean that that'll also like influence how we want to eat in the future. Like you probably like you said, because if you force it, we're gonna want independence from it. But if you model it, then we can want to do the same. Because parents are like the biggest role models. So
Absolutely. And kids really do learn from watching their parents. So it's not about what we tell you, it's about what you see us do. So the worst thing for us to do is for us to eat one way, or to live one way, but then be telling you, oh, you have to eat your vegetables, but then you never see us eating vegetables or something like that, right? Like, I think we really almost absorb more watching than we do being talked to.
Mhm.
That's at least what it seems like. But I want to just share with you guys, when we make the popcorn, in case anyone wants to know how to really optimize eating Pluck. So when we make the popcorn, we usually pop it in ghee, for example, and we basically pop the popcorn in ghee, which is clarified butter, and then when it's popped, we basically melt some butter over the popcorn, and then we literally sprinkle as much Pluck on it as we want to taste. So we just sprinkle however much it's going to make us like the popcorn. But one thing is, you like to add one thing to the popcorn to make it taste even better.
Nutritional yeast?
Yeah, she adds nutritional yeast to it. She really likes the taste of Pluck and nutritional yeast.
Yeah.
that really is amazing.
Amazing. So, what's one tip that you could give to like kids that like don't want to eat like organs, but like they want to get the benefit from it? Like what food should they put it on?
Oh, I would say start with the food you like the most. So if you eat eggs in the morning, start there. But literally, you could put it on anything. Like what would you think would be a good first food?
Well, either like eggs or popcorn, because like popcorn usually most people like, and like eggs are really good too because you can kind of like whisk it in the eggs first before cooking it, so it like gets it all in.
Yeah, so you can whisk it in the eggs when it's getting cooked. I like putting it like sometimes we'll make potatoes, roasted
Oh, yeah.
potatoes, and then we'll sprinkle it on afterwards. So like give me an example of like what do you guys what's two or three of your favorite foods?
Mine is mangoes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's food.
Fruit.
That's
Well,
fine. Mangoes and what else?
Seaweed.
there's so much good foods. Samosas.
Samosas, perfect. So when you're making the samosa, before you fry it, right?
Mm.
You can add pluck to the inside of it. To the inner ingredients,
Yeah.
and then you can fry it, and then and then do it that way, or even with mangoes. So we have a slightly spicy mild blend. Have you ever had mangoes with a little bit of chili powder on top of it?
Yeah.
I have.
It's really good. So you could actually, instead of that chili powder, you could just put our spicy blend on it, and it would taste really good. Because sometimes sweet and savory go really well together. But any kind of meats you eat, you could put on afterwards. One thing I like putting on is toast, which is funny since I said that's what Sasha was so addicted to. But it really does taste good on toast. Like you put some butter on some bread, whether it's fresh bread or toasted bread, and then just sprinkle tons of pluck over that. It tastes like a garlic bread, or like, I don't know. It's one of my favorite ways to eat it when I do have toast. What do you think?
Yeah, especially the zesty garlic.
Yeah, the zesty garlic. That's probably your favorite one right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she used to like original the most, and now she likes zesty garlic the most.
Or the spicy.
Or the spicy, yeah.
These are definitely some great ideas to start adding more Oregon flavor to our diets.
Yeah.
Where can people or kids learn more about you and your amazing work?
Well, you can find us at our website, eatpluck.com. You can find us on socials. Our handle is at eatpluck. And yeah, there's the packaging. And you can learn more about me or find me on socials at Chef James Berry. And we have a podcast as well called Everyday Ancestral. And that one's all about helping people take the best from the past. So whether it's connection or health or anything that we historically have done, and we highlighted on the podcast, and we provide practical tips on how you could take those concepts, those older concepts. And sometimes when I say older, they don't have to be 200 years old. I'm talking about just things you might do. Maybe you did when you were younger that you missed doing, or maybe something you did with your grandparents. It doesn't have to be that far. It just has to be ancestral, meaning in the past. And then we help people make sure that they don't lose it and they bring it into the present.
Amazing. So everyone go check that out. Like, what are you doing here right now? Go. So now let's recap Mr. James' key points. Organs contain bioavailable nutrients, which means you can get more bang for your buck because your body can recognize and absorb these essential vitamins and nutrients. They contain a lot of nutrients we need. Nutrition in a pinch. No need to adopt new habits. Simply use Pluck instead of salt or pepper and turn everything into a nutrient-rich, bioavailable superfood.
Find a way to get organs into your favorite food. Find your favorite foods and just sprinkle organ meat on it.
We say, if you can salt it, you can pluck it.
That's good. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zain Sari.
I'm Imad.
And I'm Gasha.
Follow my family on social media, Holistic Mom and D, and our Instagram page, Holistic Kid Show, and look out for our book coming out. Our book, The Teen Health Revolution, coming out November 2025. So definitely check that out, and you can pre-order it on Amazon
right
right now.
now.
So, and kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast and leave reviews so other kids and families can benefit. We need to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids. Thank you, everyone.